The millennial generation has been stereotyped at times by some people as maybe lazy or perhaps entitled, but one BuzzFeed reporter disagrees with that.
She is calling millennials the burnout generation, with the stress caused by several factors like anxiety, work ethic, and even childhood.
So joining us now on Skype is the author of that article, Anne Helen Petersen. Thanks for joining us. And so I know that, and I even had this reaction when I saw this article and I saw that headline, and I thought, oh, your childhood ruined your adulting. Newsflash, it's the same for everyone. Everyone's stressed out. What's so different and what's so special? But then when I dived into the article, I kind of saw what you were talking about. So let us start with just what burnout is, because I think people are sometimes burned out and they don't even realize they're burned out, which is something you point out in the article. And, you know, how does burnout manifest in the millennial generation?
Yeah, I thought that burnout was something that you experienced and then you went on vacation and you got better. And so I really didn't think that I was burnt out or that, I was working, I kept working. And so what was the real paradigm shift for me is to think like, oh, what if we are just all burnt out and this is why we feel the way that we do, so exhausted all the time, like life is just one endless to-do list.
Right. So it's what sort of Anne Marie alluded to earlier, which is, generations previous have faced a lot of challenges: world wars, depression, disease, the threat of nuclear annihilation. So explain to the audience. I mean, yeah, that is true, right? During the 50s and 60s, people lived in the fear that there would be an attack between the United States and the Soviet Union, and we would all, mutually assured destruction. So that was a real fear. So explain to our audience why this generation is different. What's different about it?
Yeah, I think that, I'm not saying that what millennials are facing today is the same as most of the generation having to go to war. This is a very different sort of affliction. And what it has to do with is just like the everyday, what you were dealing with every day, the stresses and the anxiety. And I think that, our grandparents, our great-grandparents' generation, in a lot of ways, the things that they were dealing with were a little bit more straightforward, right? Like when you know what the task is or what the problem is, you can grapple with it head on. Like we are at war, we are rationing our food, all those sorts of things were more straightforward, whereas we're told that everything is great, right? So why don't I feel good? And that's the existential question.
Meanwhile, there are all these pressures. The income is basically stagnant now. It's stagnated, whatever. It costs so much to get a good education, and you might end up getting a job that won't pay for all those student loan bills. The security that other generations might have had, like a pension, you're not seeing that nowadays. And I think that sometimes there's a tendency to sort of disregard the stresses of millennials. And I want to point out, too, millennials are no longer like the 21-year-olds.
Right.
Like it stretches
They're
into sort of your early 30s, dealing with real adult problems. And I wondered how you felt the economy played a role in all of this.
Oh, I think most millennials, we entered into an economy that was deep in the economic downturn. So we haven't known anything except for difficulty finding jobs. Like graduated from college and no jobs. What do? I go back to grad school and I take out more loans. Graduated from grad school. Oh, the economy is maybe better, but here I am. I'm 31 and I'm trying to start my adult life. And as you pointed out earlier, I'm 37 and I am a millennial. Most of my friends have 2 to 3 kids. Like we aren't children, we are adults.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point, too, and that I want to sort of drill down on, because it feels to me as if many of the issues that millennials are facing today, unlike some of the previous generations that we talked about and some of the challenges and the difficulties that they had, a lot of the pressures and the issues that millennials are facing today were created by baby boomers, the generation before mine. I'm Generation X, right? Baby boomers are the ones who are essentially like in Congress right now and running the country as in the form of the President of the United States. And they're the ones who've caused what is sometimes not as easily definable as it may have been in the silent generation or even what the boomers themselves face as children.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them don't have necessarily an experience with what it feels like to graduate with $120,000 in loans. or think like, oh, they should have worked so they wouldn't have to take out loans. And that's just an unrealistic prospect these days. Like, even if you go to community college, it's difficult to work enough so that you don't have to take out loans.
Yeah, because that generation, the baby boomers and their parents, who the baby boomers are the children of the silent generation. When their parents came back from the war, they had the GI Bill. There were Levittown, America, USA. There were homes that were being built for them. They were given opportunities. Jobs were for life in many instances in the automotive industry, right? And here, you don't have that, even though you have the same pressures to build a home, to start a family, to pay bills, and the cost of those things have skyrocketed.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to ask you, because we sort of use examples of ways in which burnout manifests itself, and some of them are really, they're minor. They seem like they're minor, like you've been trying to mail a letter for 3 months and you just can't seem to sort of get it done, right? And I think that example really sort of hit me because I had a phone to return, a damaged phone, and I had to return it or else I was going to be charged for it, and it had been sitting there for 3 weeks, and I thought to myself, yeah, like, why can't I get rid of this phone? It's so easy. I just got to walk 2 blocks. And I wonder if you think that there are mental health issues that are surfacing within the millennial generation that aren't being recognized as mental health issues.
Yeah, and I don't think, some people ask, like, is it burnout or is it depression? And I don't think it's necessarily depression. A lot of people I know who have been diagnosed with burnout, they have gone to psychiatrists who've said, you do not have clinical depression. Like, you just need more rest. And I think that some of those, the term I use in the article, which is a funny term, is called errand paralysis. Yeah. But so many people related to this idea that, like, why can't I do these dumb, simple, straightforward tasks? What am I, like, I am a failure. Right. But really what it is that when you are constantly on this treadmill of to-do tasks to do with your family and your job and working all the time for less pay and less security, that, mailing a letter or returning a phone becomes the last priority.
Right, right. You mentioned sort of getting the advice to just rest, or, maybe put on a face mask and relax for a while, do some yoga. Where's your meditation app? And I thought this was really interesting in the article that you point out that all these little things are sort of masquerading as mental health or mental health remedies or rest. And actually, they're just other ways to optimize your productivity. They're really not giving you an opportunity to truly unplug and rest yourself.
Yeah, to optimize the body. The word optimize is to, like, how can I be more efficient at whatever I'm doing? So I point out, like, athleisure, which is clothes like wearing yoga pants all the time. It makes it so you can transition from, working at home to picking up your kids at work to going to the gym. You are just this efficiency machine. And even something like a face mask is about, like, making your body more beautiful so that you can, be a better person in society. And each person has to think through what actual disengagement from that, to-do list looks like. It's different for everyone.
Right.
And I guess one last question I have for you, Anne, is in your research, did you find, and it's something that we've talked about often, which is as things are developed, created, invented that supposedly make our lives easier, in fact, what we find is they made our lives much more difficult. For example, you can easily download a book to your Kindle device or to your phone, and very few people have ever had the experience of going into a library and having a library card, which is something that I recently just did again, just because I wanted that feeling of what it was like when the only way you can get a book, if you didn't buy one, was to go to the library. And I just wonder if that's something that contributes to some of the paralysis or some of the issues that you're talking about, even in the sense of the mental health issues, because if everything supposedly is available at your fingertips through Google, which means you don't ever have to do any kind of research through sort of shoe leather research, does that make our lives harder as opposed to make it easier? And then that complicates all the things that are going on up here.
Totally. Like, how easy is it to actually just open a book, right? Like, the analog is so simple and so accessible and so pleasurable in that way. And I think that, even something like, there are all these tools to make you more efficient in the workplace. So, like, there's this app called Slack, which is how a lot of workplaces
we
know it well, yeah.
And it makes you accessible all the time. And so what it means is it's not just checking your emails at 11 p.m., but also like showing, oh, well, I'm up earlier than everyone else on my team and I'm on Slack. Like, here's how I am a better worker. And there's that expectation of trying to perform working all the time.
So true.
Really interesting article.
Yeah.
It's on BuzzFeed right now. You can check it out. Anne Helen Petersen, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.